Did you know that most guitarists struggle with chord changes for years? Imagine if you could master them in just a few days. You'd be able to play hundreds or thousands of songs that you already know. You'd be able to jam with your friends. You'd be able to write your own music or join a band. If you can already strum some basic chords, but you're having trouble switching between them, it's likely because there's something that you don't know that's holding you back. Let's go through all the steps that you need to know and see if there's something that you've been missing. Here we go. So first we need to take a smart approach on which chords we need to practice switching back and forth, because not all chords are going to be paired together. Chords come in groups based on the key of the song. For example, take a look at this C group. These are the chords that are going to be paired with C, also known as the key of C. So you should practice switching between C and each one of these other chords. Let's just take a look at, for example, C to E minor. This brings up a concept known as a pivot finger. C to E minor. Notice it has a finger, the second finger, that stays in the same spot, and therefore we want to keep it down when we're switching between the two chords. That's known as a pivot finger. It also happens here between C and A minor. Now you'll notice that the second finger and first finger switching from C to A minor will stay on the same frets. However, you might have to slide the second finger down a bit just so you can switch this third finger in the right place. Another thing you'll need to know is something called finger grouping. You'll notice that some of the chords will have similar shapes, like from C to F. Notice that this pair of fingers, your third and second finger, if they just move over, that has a similar shape. So you should practice moving these two fingers as a group. Now we all know that the F chord is really hard, and that brings up another concept called alternate forms. We're gonna come back to that in a moment. Have you ever noticed that some chords have several different fingerings? For example, a G chord might be fingered like this, or like this, or like this, or maybe even bar chord form. Now, why does it have so many different forms, and why would you pick a specific fingering for that chord? Well, it depends on which chords are coming around it. Again, which group of chords it comes with. If it's in the C group or in the key of C, you should pick this form of G. Because this fingering, this group of fingering, third and second finger, can practice moving as a pair. There's this concept called cowboy chords, which you might have heard of. The cowboy chords is a non-technical term, but it just describes chords that come together in common groups with specific fingerings that allow the chord switches to be extremely easy. Back to that F chord example. In the key of C, this is an alternate form of C. It's still just called C. It doesn't have another name, but in this form, we're adding the pinky to the third fret of the first string. But if we pair this with our F chord, this is a really beautiful sound, and it's called F add 9. And so you might want to switch using that alternate form of F, simply because it's easier to switch between C and F add 9 than it would be switching between C and a regular partial barred form of F. Okay. Furthermore, that would pair very nicely with this form of G, because that pinky is still there. So in this cowboy chord grouping in the C group, C, F, add 9 to G, really you're only moving this finger grouping as a pair through the chord changes. So what you want to practice here is switching those fingers as a pair, being able to pick them up and place them down and move them together. What I just showed you is a little bit less known group of cowboy chord. Maybe you've seen the G group of cowboy chords, which is far more common. That's where you have a G form that looks like this, where you actually have the third and fourth fingers on the third fret of the first and second strings. And in this group, you're gonna play this form of G, switch this finger grouping over a string set, and now you have what's called C add 9. This is also very commonly paired with E minor 7, D sus4. So altogether you have G, C add 9, D C sus4, E minor 7, and back to G. All 4 of those chords are gonna have these 2 fingers just planted and they stay put. The only 2 fingers that move are your 1st and 2nd finger. I'll put a link in the description so you can download this chart for free. When you first learn to play the chords, you should always form the chord fat to skinny. And what I mean by that is form the chords from the fat strings to the skinny strings. Right now you're probably strumming like this, where every single time you're strumming all strings. But as you get more advanced, you're gonna use this bass pattern strum way more often than that style strum. And that's where you'll strum the first beat on the low strings, and then the rest of the strum will be separated to the higher strings. And even if you're not doing that bass style strum, it's still, you're normally strumming on a down strum, so you're gonna have more time to get to these higher strings than these lower strings, which are gonna strike first. And here is the absolute best, and as far as I'm concerned, only way to practice switching the actual chords. So this exercise, then you have to use it with a metronome. We'll call this the 1 to 4 strums exercise. And that's where we're just gonna set up a metronome. Just download this app, the Pro Metronome. This is not sponsored. This is just the metronome that I've been using for well over 10 years, and it's free. We're gonna have the metronome clicking at a relatively fast speed, a little bit faster than you might expect. We're gonna start here at 120 beats per minute. Notice there's a different click for that for beat 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where we're gonna start our strum. So we're gonna strum a C chord on beat 1 and then a G chord on beat 1 of the next measure. C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, C, okay? Now what I want you to do is right when you strum the chord, immediately switch to the 2nd chord. Okay, don't try to hold the chord out 2, 3, 4 and switch at the last minute. At first, you're gonna give yourself 3 beats of time to switch to that next chord, like this. 2, 3, 4, C, switch, 3, 4, G, switch back to C. C, switch back to G, hold and wait. 2, switch back to C, hold and wait. 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, C. Okay, so notice there, I'm not holding the chord, I'm just going straight as soon as I play that chord and make it short and immediately start to switch to that next chord. Hold it there and wait until the downbeat and then strum. That's step 1. Step 2, we're simply gonna do the same thing, but strum twice, like this. 3, 4, 1, 2, switch immediately. Switch immediately. Switch to G. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, get it? Now we're gonna do 3 strums. Same idea, 1. So 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, switch. Now we only have 1 beat of time to switch between the 2 chords. Okay, and you guessed it, the last part of this exercise is just doing all 4 strums. If you can do this, you've got it. 1, 2, all 4 strums go. 1, 2, 3.